what's up, everybody? This is Devin from Weston Audio again, and today I've got a new module that I will show you and demo in this video. This is a brand new one called SE1. It is called the Shaped Voltage Controlled Envelope, or VC envelope, and it is a ADSR type envelope with some features that you've probably seen before and a couple others that maybe you haven't. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. So I've got a basic patch with a VCA getting the output of an oscillator, and it's going through a filter, but I just have that fully open, and then the gate for my MIDI CV interface is triggering the envelope, and then you can see the output of the envelope here over on the Mordex data. So right now what you see is the main output of SE1, and there's actually also an inverted output, which you can see it does the exact same thing as the main, but it's inverted. But you don't hear that because that's just closing my VCA off even more. All the stages for attack, decay, sustain, and release are controlled with these sliders. So there's the attack. And it'll go all the way up to about 20 seconds or so. And then the shortest one is 1 millisecond. Then you have decay. Okay. And then the sustain is, of course, the sustain level. And then release. Okay. It has a loop feature here, which you can select with this switch, and what that will do is it will continue to bounce between the top of the envelope and the sustain level, as long as there's a gate being held down. So that is the loop. And you'll probably notice that as I'm holding a key down and the gate is high, the gate status when we're selected to use a gate, it will go, this button will light up. And that is also a manual trigger button, so me clicking that button does the exact same thing as whatever gate is going into the gate input here. Now, each one of the stages you can independently select the shape of the approach or decay, whatever it might be. So this is all linear right now. We can also do exponential. And that's that can be pretty cool for like reverse type sounds. And then linear, and then a logarithmic. Exponential, linear, logarithmic. And the same thing with the decay. There's your exponential and then logarithmic. And the same with the release. Okay. Now back over actually to this gate area, you'll see there's a switch below the input, and that will, if you select trigger, then any gate information is ignored, and basically the start of whatever gate or trigger you're sending will set off in an AR style envelope. Right, so I can just hit that button and it's going to finish no matter what. The other thing to know is that when you're in trigger selection, if you go to loop, it's going to self oscillate as basically like an LFO, which is kind of convenient because now you don't need to have any gate input and it's just going to go. And know that bottom portion of this waveform is set by the sustain level, right? So if you set it all the way down, it'll stop. But if you give it a little bit, then it'll self-oscillate, and then you can change the shape, right, by using the attack and decay. I'll set it back to gate. Each one of so these are like columns, right? Attack, decay, sustain, release. Each column has a CV input. So I could just put a waveform here. Now, of course, this is kind of a fast-moving waveform, but there you go. And then the same thing for this decay and then the release. Now, the sustain CV input is actually going to be just summed with the level of this sustain. So we'll put that same signal in. And one cool thing that the SE1 can do is that it has this additional jack below the sustain CV, which, as I just mentioned, is, this signal summed with the actual 0 to 10 volts voltage of this slider. This sustain Env in is basically, this is the CV for a VCA in front of this signal. So what we could do, for example, is take and trigger another envelope that would be triggered by when we go into sustain mode here. So I'll go ahead and put that to another envelope and then bring this output here. So you see, now we have a swelling envelope, an AR envelope on top of that signal that's going into the sustain here. So that is what sustain Env in does, and the sustain CV input. Okay. Now, finally, we have, sorry, I'm getting my patches fixed back up here. We have these state gates, which I actually just used, so I can explain that. And all that is these go high. So they'll be sitting at 0 volts. They go to 5 volts or high. It's you know, a digital logic signal when you're in that portion of the envelope. So we can look at that over on the data. You can see there's your attack. The blue line, it goes high when it's in the attack portion, in the decay portion, in the sustaining portion, and then in the releasing portion. Releasing. Okay, so that's what I used this sustain gate to trigger another SE1 to show you that sustain env in feature. So that was kicking off that envelope as soon as we hit into the sustain stage. There's also an EOC end of cycle that kicks a 1 millisecond long pulse whenever an envelope is finished. And you can't see it with the data until we zoom in more. See that little blue blip there as soon as the envelope finished. So you can use that for various functions like Krell patch type stuff. Those sorts of regenerative patches that need to know when the envelope's crossed back over to 0. Finally, there's a level CV input, and that's going to be a VCA on top of the entire output, and that affects both the inverted and the main one. Right? So that's level CV. And a note about the levels, the SE1 outputs 0 to 5 volt envelopes, but there is a jumper in the back that you can quickly take the rear PCB off and just move a physical jumper and have 8 volt. So it's up to you how you want to configure it. Yeah, so that's pretty much SE1 in a nutshell. I'm hoping that that covered everything, and then you guys got any questions or comments, you know, put them up on the YouTube link, and I'll always hit you back. And yeah, have a good one, and hope you enjoyed this presentation, and happy patching.